Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We are coming to you on November 3rd, 2021. We are 9 months into the Biden administration, and we are still not sure if Joe Biden is aware that he's president of the United States. That guy has been doing some things that is beyond crazy. And I think if we say he's incompetent, it will be the understatement of the year. Anyway, before I go any further, let me introduce my panelists who will be with me here today. On my upper left-hand corner, it is our champion of choice, Jason McPhee. Jason, thank you. Wave to the audience, man. Come on. In our upper right-hand corner is our screaming eagle of freedom. Oh, man, he's giving us a big wave. Those wings are really flying, Tim, and that's good. I like that. Tim Everett. So, of course, I am Leon Brathwaite. They call me the last word in liberty. So I tend to stick to that. Always be the last word. I love that. So let's get right into the topics. Our first topic today is immigration, both legal and illegal immigration. Some among us do not make a distinction between the two. I do, but some don't. And there are many issues that are arising out of this issue of immigration. In fiscal year 2021, over 2 million people, 2 million individuals crossed our border, our southern border. And this flow is continuing. Recently, as we speak, there's a caravan of some 3,000 people heading towards our southern border. And as far as we know, they will be allowed into the United States. I find this quite objectionable, and we'll speak about that as we go through our discussion. But there are a lot of issues that are coming out of this whole issue of immigration. During the Trump administration, a wall was constructed, at least a part of a wall was constructed on our southern border. It was not yet completed. The Biden administration, I believe on the first day, stopped the construction. And right now we have about $100 million of material sitting on the ground on our southern border, just wasting away because the construction was stopped. We also found out that the Biden administration, Joe Biden in particular, do not like walls at all for illegal immigrants. But he loves walls when they're built around his own home. Right now, the Department of Homeland Security is building a wall costing about $500,000 around his one of his beachfront properties, which I find quite ironic.
Hey, Leon, I thought those walls didn't work, we were told.
Well, this is what I was trying to, this is what I was hoping you guys will give me some clarity on. Since these walls don't work, how come they work when Joe Biden is constructing them around his home? But there are all sorts of questions that come out of all of this on a serious note. How do libertarians, or how should libertarians feel about immigration in general? And then we'll talk about the illegal part of immigration. So Jason, why don't you lead us out on this, and then we'll get to Tim.
Okay. Well, it's funny when you kicked off the show, you mentioned that Biden may not really realize he's president. Well, whether he knows it or not, the rest of the country sure knows it, and we can tell by almost every policy decision that guy makes, whether it's people falling from airplanes or armies of people coming across the border. I mean, it's impossible to spot that Biden is not president. Yeah, as far as immigration goes, I mean, this is kind of one of the, one of the conflicts inside the Libertarian Party is, you got this issue that, the ultimate concern for libertarians is that we respect individuality and people's freedom and their liberty. And the idea for people to be able to move, that's very important to their liberty, that they can, travel from one place to another. The problem comes in that we have this social safety net because we have kind of a, sort of a socialist setup here for, taking care of people when they're not doing well. And so that's where the conflict kind of comes in, is that, okay, well, you've got people coming in who may not have paid into the social safety net, and they may be drawing on it. And it's hard to tell because some of these things are hard to measure, right? I mean, they say that in some cases you can't draw on it if you're not a citizen. And yet clearly you can come into an emergency room. In fact, we watched all of the Democrat candidates as they were running against Trump stood up there, raised their hands, and said, we think that anybody who comes here should get free health care. So, right. I mean, there are definite, I guess you might say distortions to the process of free movement, in the sense that they're being given incentives to come here that other people are paying for. So that's kind of the problem. And so I think this is where, where do you come down as libertarian? Somebody like Milton Friedman would have said that you can't have a welfare state, essentially, and open borders. You just can't have them in conjunction, because then you have this huge incentive drawing people for the free benefits. On the other hand, some people say, look, just because we have this one distortion doesn't mean then we should double down and cancel other freedoms that people have as well. So I'm a little more on the side that I think, I'd like to see open borders, but that means, in my opinion, we need to make sure we don't have distortions drawing people here, other than, hey, look, you want to come here and work for me? Fine. I don't care. You want to come in here and, just to, take advantage of our services by buying products and services? Fine. I don't have a problem. But, if there's something else where you're coming here because you think you're getting some free stuff or something, that's a problem, because it's going to be somebody else who's going to be paying for it. So that's kind of the crux of the issue. So I'll kick it to you, Tim.
Tim, how do you come down on this?
Well, yeah, I think that's a very reasonable argument that Jason formulated there. He didn't even add to it the other potential distortion of having non-citizens vote in elections too, which he could have, and again, that would have been another distortion. So either you get rid of the distortions and the social safety nets and the free for all for voting, or you have open borders. And then you could have open borders without much of an argument. And historically, I mean, that's the majority of time. Of course, now I'm gonna. If I bring this argument up, it's very impractical. Jason's argument was very practical. It was very centered on what's existing now. So my argument's going to be completely, ridiculous in that it's
whatever it is, Tim, it can't be any more ridiculous than what Biden's doing. So just open up on it.
At least mine is somewat grounded in principle. So
don't worry, Tim. It's a very low bar. So go ahead.
I'm in good company then with Joe Biden. So passports were not even they're an invention of wartime, and closed borders and all this stuff. Of course, that was along. I'm talking about World War I and World War II, of course. They kind of stuck around after that for the most part. Passports did. But so the the whole social safety net and this voting stuff was not, was not part of the program. And so you could have open borders and nobody cared because, good, we have free trade and people can come and go as they choose. and nobody has a passport, so you can just go right between countries. So like today we go between states without passport, and that's a good thing. But it's impractical to bring up arguments like this, and so I like Jason's argument better. If you're going to have a social safety net, then you can't either get rid of it if you want everybody to be a part of it, including illegals, or you got to stop illegal immigration, and you have to enforce it. You have to have some rules and stuff set down. The government, I guess, just likes to put rules on all of us and doesn't want to have to abide by their own set of rules, apparently.
That indeed is a problem. However, with both the arguments that I'm hearing here, what about the issue of the rule of law and the issue of sovereignty? Now, every country in the world, no matter where you are in the world, have borders. Every single country do. Doesn't the rule of law should take precedent over any such thing as free movement across borders? I mean, it is not to say that we should not have free trade. I am not suggesting that. However, does the sovereignty of a nation override the whole issue of having the borders open where people can walk across as they please? Now, I have a very personal story here that I will add to this discussion. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because I find this whole thing about an open border a little bit objectionable, but I'm not close-minded to the issue. I think you guys know I came here in 1977. I did not become an American citizen until 1993. If you do the math, that is 16 years it took me to do this legally. So I find it very objectionable that anybody could just get up in Guatemala or Honduras or wherever the hell they get up tomorrow morning and decide, you know what, it's time for me to move to the US. And they can do so without a problem. So I have a personal bias here, and I'm willing to discuss that bias at any time you guys wish. But what about the issue of sovereignty? And what about the rule of law? Does that count for anything? Jason?
Well, as far as the rule of law goes, I mean, I personally think that we have too many laws regarding this, right? I mean, if we didn't have to worry about this distortion of the social safety net, then maybe some of these are kind of unnecessary. I do think, as I'm sure you would agree, that we should have some rules at the border. I mean, certainly we would want to know who's passing, make sure that it's not a criminal who's coming in or a terrorist or something else like that. But as far as if somebody literally just wants to come in and perform a consensual relationship with somebody else, whether that be work or an interpersonal relationship or something else, it just seems kind of crazy that we would have to second guess that, I guess, and approve that, because it's not just restricting the freedom of the person from outside the country, it's also restricting the person here. I mean, if somebody wants to come here and interact with you and you want them to come, then they can't necessarily come. So it's not, a lot of times these restrictions are not just on one party. They're literally on both people who want to be involved in the relationship. But I certainly think that, this is the problem, right? I mean, lefties want to essentially give away the store. They want to have all kinds of free stuff reach into some people's pockets and hand it to other people. And it just creates one bad effect after another. And what we're seeing is the bad effect, right? We have all these people now who are coming. They think there must be some advantage to them coming. That's why we're getting hordes coming when Biden is president. I mean, they even had some people show up with Biden Kamala T-shirts on.
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely true, yes. It's just insane. And I mean, the idea that some people are sending their kids by themselves because they know that the kids can get in. I'm sending them on train. I mean, the distortion here is insane. I mean, the idea that these people are risking their lives and their kids, paying coyotes, people who work for drug cartels, to get them across it. Yet another distortion, right? War on drugs. We won't get into that here, but I mean, that's part of the reason why people want to have a closed border as well, because they're afraid of the cartels. Well, maybe if you end the black market, yet another government distortion, maybe that goes away too. So I don't know. That's
I think you really pointed out that and you use the word distortions, because the government is distorting these motivations of people from outside the U.S. to come to the U.S. And it's not to do trade with Joe Blow and Jason McPhee and Tim Everett and Leon. It's not to do trade or to work for them or anything like that. It's not, your typical reason that people should be coming back and forth between borders legally. And yes, I agree about the rule of law and having sovereignty over your borders. That countries certainly have a right to do that, and they can close them. I mean, what if there's an invasion? What if China, lined up a bunch of tanks at the border of Mexico and started driving them into and blasting little towns in Texas, and can't we repel invasions? We don't have the right to do that. No, we've always had the right to do that. That was written into the original Constitution. And so I think these distortions are government bred, and I think the Democratic Party has an ulterior motive. Simply, so I mean, everybody knows it. I'm not going to break any new ground here. They're just trying to get new Democrat voters.
That I totally agree with. Yes.
Right. So there's the distortion. There's a reason for the distortion. Because Jason said they want to give away the farm, because not just to give away stuff that belongs to other Americans, taxpaying Americans. That's not the reason that they want to give away the farm. They want to give away the farm to get elected next election. That's all they care about is the next election. Who's going to vote for me? Well, it's the people that I give the most stuff. That I take stuff from the small amount of Americans now left over to support the whole giant mess that is no longer supportable, because it's all based on debt. All the new spending, 100% is based on debt. Okay, that I never mind the source, but that's where it's all come. I invite anybody listening to refute that. Okay, that it's not all financed on debt. All the spending, 100%. Okay, and if you've come up with a good refutation of that, then I'll have to dig up my source and go after it. But it's unsustainable completely. And so we're no longer sucking all the resources from the taxpayers. We sucked as much as we can possibly suck, although the Democrats want to suck more. But this is
they suck.
But given the fact that the distortions do exist, given the fact that we have a huge welfare state at every level of government, given those facts, how could we then even think about possibly having the borders open then?
Yeah, we can't. Yeah. I agree. We can't, because the only libertarian argument is predicated on the severe reduction and complete elimination of a social safety net or social welfare to immigrants from other countries that are not bona fide legal U.S. citizens. Okay, so the whole argument is predicated on that. And that ain't happening, ever. Well, I take that back. When everything falls down, when this giant house of debt-based cards falls down and crushes what little is left of any semblance of governance beneath it, that's when all this stuff is going to go away. And now we can go back to open borders, because there won't be anything left to give away for free. I love the word free. Yes, it's free. It doesn't cost anyone any bit of money. Like even Biden, in his lunacy and his idiocy and his imbecilic nature, thinks that this is all going to be costing us nothing because debt is free. It's 0% interest. What the heck? Let's go for it.
You know, one thing I just wanted to jump in on real quick, and I know we're kind of running out of time on this, but as far as incentives, the incentives have gone into crazy land at this point under Biden. I recall that the kids in cages issue that came up, that was literally something that was constructed under the Obama administration, right? Those pictures that they all used were from Obama. Okay, well now I think Biden, trying to separate himself from that, is trying to now say that if you were a family that was separated under the Trump administration, I guess kids in the Obama cages, I guess, I'm not sure. But if you were a family that was separated, then now he wants to give these individuals up to $450,000 a piece and families up to $1 million. Okay. Now you talk about just an absolutely psychotic incentive, right?
Yes.
If you're out there and you live in a third world country, maybe you're making 15, 20,000 a year, doing well there. And then suddenly you see, hey, if I come to the United States, not only can I potentially get in for whatever normal incentives there are for immigration, now I could be a lottery winner. I mean, literally, I can show up and I could not know. And somebody crazy like Biden is going to come along a few years later and say, hey, you just won $1 million. You didn't know that illegal act you performed 3 years ago, that netted you $1 million. I can't even imagine. I mean, it's like, what's next? Lottery winnings for prisoners? I don't. You're in jail for a certain amount of time. They're just going to hand you a lottery ticket or something. I can't even imagine how insane this is. And I mean, I'm thinking if I'm in another country, I'm thinking, hey, just come to the United States. I might win $1 million. Maybe I go back, maybe I won't, but I'm going to have a chance at winning the lottery.
Okay, guys, we really got on this topic. It went much longer than I intended, but it was a very good discussion. Tim, let's go to Good Guys with Guns.
Okay, Good Guys with Guns is from Covington County, Alabama, and the sheriff's office is crediting a senior citizen. I love this. With forcing an alleged, they always have to be alleged, burglar into retreat, which ended with his capture. So Sheriff Blake Turman said, this is the bad guy, Timothy, good name, but bad guy, Ray Jordan, 40. Age of 40, broke into a home on Fisherman's Road near the Dozier community Friday evening. The 95-year-old homeowner was reportedly napping in his living room, but the back door's shattering glass woke him up. The sheriff said the homeowner armed himself, we don't know with what, and caught... I'm sorry, this stupid cough. Jordan ransacking the kitchen. Said Jordan had hurled a chair through the dining room window at some point. According to the sheriff, the armed senior citizen did not run away. Instead, he ordered Jordan to leave. The suspect did, and the homeowner called 911. Later on, they caught him. I'm going to paraphrase. The cops caught this guy, and he had been burglarizing all kinds of residents. Charged him with burglary and second-degree, third-degree criminal mischief, and he's in jail right now. But it worked out really well. Nobody got hurt, and the 95-year-old beat the 40-year-old because he was able to equalize the playing field with a firearm.
There you go. Fantastic.
You know what's interesting?
Knuckleheads Noise Patrol.
Very good one thing I was going to say.
Thank you very much.
Knucklehead
Noise Patrol. Today we are going to talk about a race hustler who ties himself up in knots and did not realize it until someone mocked his dishonesty. Abraham X. Kendi, well-known racist, even though he called himself an anti-racist, put the following on Twitter. He was talking about a study that came out that showed that 34% of white kids identify themselves as something other than white. He said, more than a third of white students lie about their race on college applications, and about half of these applicants lie about being Native Americans. More than 3/4 of these students who lied about their race were accepted. Now, Mr. Kennedy thought that he found something that show, of course, demonstrate the evil of white. Then one of it, Mr. Kennedy, if white privilege is such a decisive factor, then why do white students feel that their applications would do better if they pretended to be something other than white? And why would these applications be so successful? Which, of course, made Mr. Kennedy realize his whole life work is going up in smoke with his white privilege garbage. So what did he do? He deleted the tweet and said his critics are twisting his words. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I think that he kind of proved himself wrong. I mean, the idea that he's going to sit there and say, "Look, that there's this systemic racism in everything." Essentially, what these guys are trying to say. It doesn't matter what it's kind of like that unfalsifiable claim. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to apply. If they don't like the result, there's racism going on there. And in this case, he literally didn't realize the racism was going in the other direction. I mean, to the point where white people are lying to say that they're just like Elizabeth Warren. They're lying to say that they're a different racial group so that they can get the benefits of being that racial group. So it's you can't say it any clearer than that, and which debunks his whole thing. And of course, so he erased his tweet after that.
He did. Yeah. He deleted the tweet and started to complain about how people are twisting his words. And he probably, if I look a bit deeper, he probably found some racism in that too. I'm wondering, given his background.
Yeah, oh, no doubt.
Yes. Tim, did you have
I agree with Jason. I wanted to hear what Jason was about to say after, I think, Good Guys with Guns. I'm not sure. He had something to say.
Well, I just wanted to mention at the end of that Good Guys with Guns that one of the cool things about that story is it's about a guy who didn't have to pull the trigger, right? He literally pulled the gun out, and he didn't have to pull the trigger, which is a great thing. Unlike Alec Baldwin, you can do a lot of good if you don't pull the trigger. Maybe Alec Baldwin could have learned from that.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about Alec, but and because if it bleeds, it leads. Obviously, that story did not make the headline news that night. Nobody got hurt, but somebody saved, at least bested and got somebody out of his house that didn't belong there. Anyway, there we have it.
Okay, guys, very good discussion, but time is upon us, so we must say goodbye. Remember, at all times, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will take us to the promised land, not the garbage of the left, not wokeness. Have a good day.
And